Very good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us to our election town hall. We are bringing all of your questions that you sent us to the experts, which I am not. I am here. I'm so thankful to have three experts from all across the aisle, all across the spectrum of political parties. This is not a political conversation. We are here to bring you the answers of how we can have a successful election. And for that, I am so thankful that we have Amanda Waske, who is the Ringgold County Auditor, Jamie Fitzgerald, who is the Polk County Auditor, and Paul Pate, the Secretary of State. All three of you, thank you so much for being here. To get started, I would love if each of you could just kind of go through what your role is in the election for those who are sitting at home. And, we live, breathe, eat this every single day, but many people don't. So Amanda, if we could please start with you, talk to me a little bit about Ringgold County and what your election process is like and just what you do as a county auditor in general.
Sure. So Ringgold County, we have a population here of about a little over 5,000 people, and we have registered voters around 3,100. So the auditor's office, we are responsible for many things outside of elections, payroll, claims, real estate, taxes. So as far as elections, it's myself and a deputy in my office full-time. So right now, what we're doing, election day itself is pretty uneventful for the most part, we hope, but we are here to put out fires and tend to answer questions from poll workers and voters. And right now, we're really just assisting voters as they come in to vote early and process ballots that are coming in the mail and hand delivered.
Okay, Amanda, thank you very much. Now let's please, Jamie Fitzgerald, the Polk County Auditor. It's quite a different situation of what's happening in your office. You have quite a few more staff members. Tell us a little bit about what's happening, the day in, day out activity at the Polk County Auditor's Office.
Sure, but the one thing I want to mention is we do economies of scale. Even though Amanda might not have the number of voters that Polk County has, we have enough staff to kind of equal everything out. So in Polk County, we have about 314,000 registered voters. Every day, our day is met with coming to work by 8 and seeing a line of voters ready to vote. Our office is open 8 to 5, and we average about 120 voters per hour. So we're doing well over 1,000 voters per day, and you can vote in your local county auditor's office up until November 2nd. We'll be open Saturday from 8 to 5 in Polk County. Some counties will be different, so call your local county auditor. But we have a number of precincts, a number of observers are going to be set up, a lot of national media. But for us, it's just making sure that voters vote the way they wanted to. The time to vote by mail is over. If you have a mailed ballot, you can get that back to your county auditor. It's got to be postmarked November 2nd or earlier. Don't wait on that. You can vote in your local county auditor's office, or you can go to the polling site. And we've asked people to make plans along with Secretary of Pate, just to make a plan to vote. And that's what we've been working on the last couple months.
Jamie, thank you very much. Now, Secretary Pate, please explain to all of our viewers exactly what the Secretary of State's office does in terms of the election. But also, can you talk to us a little bit about how you have to work with the county auditors and just, how everyone kind of works together?
Well, it's a team effort. When you have 99 counties, they're the point people. They're the local commissioners of election. Our office serves as the state center, if you will, making sure we try to direct the resources, make sure information is available, provide the ongoing training and guidance along the process. A lot of the things they're doing is sent our way, such as voter registration. As they get an application for voter registering, those will come our way, and we have a central database, so we take care of those. And we're looking, it's 5 days out from election, so our staff is trying to make sure the auditor are getting everything they need from us. Excuse me. And we have got 815,000 Iowans who have already voted across the state, and we've shattered all the records for absentee voting in Iowa. And we're anticipating a pretty steady turnout as election day comes. We're talking off camera, take Jamie's thunder, but we've got lines coming in. We don't like that word lines, but it's not really what you think. They are processing them very quickly, but people are out there wanting to get their vote in, and that's part of the process. So for us, it's resources. We're a resource center. trying to make sure they have everything. I think I lost track, but we're talking probably 20, 30,000 of the, well, more than that. We have face masks. I'm looking over to one of my staff. 100,000, that makes better. 100,000 face masks and shields that were put out. Thousands of gallons of hand sanitizer, social distancing products, and those were processed by our staff. And our staff's not real large. Our elections team is very modest, and so we're all in this together. If we don't work together, we can never get it done.
You mentioned absentee ballots. You all three did, and I'd love for you to, any of you, you decide who you'd like to answer the question. But how are these ballots counted? What is the process? When can you open them? When will people get those results out? What time of day will we start seeing those numbers?
In Ringgold County, well, in most counties, we now have the option to start opening ballots on Saturday to prepare to get them counted on Monday or Tuesday. And I know a lot of counties are taking advantage of that new directive. I know that it's pretty beneficial, especially to the larger counties who are seeing a increase in voters. So we in Ringgold County will start opening. I have a bipartisan team coming in on Saturday to start opening and getting them ready for us to start processing on Monday. The deadline to get results in is 10 p.m. on election night, and I am confident that in our county that would definitely be met.
Talk to me about that deadline. Who sets that deadline, Secretary Pate? And we're hearing you're not going to get results for a week maybe in this election. So what does that mean? What do these deadlines mean?
Well, again, just to make it clear, we've always resisted saying the final results are on election night because we have so many more steps in the process. Additional absentees may come in the mail. We need time to make sure all the post-election audits are being done and the canvasses on the county level. So the official is a little longer, but we're pretty good about election night, giving you a preliminary feel for it. And the auditors have been giving us very positive feedback that they're comfortable that you'll see those results before you go to bed. Now, you might not go to bed till a little later. And I'm looking at Jamie on my screen to see how Polk County, because the bigger counties are the ones we kind of look at, waiting for those last ones to come in. But with the absentees being already pre-counted, and if you have 40% of Iowans right now voting absentee, that's almost half already done. And so at 10 o'clock, as Amanda says, we'll have those numbers for you. So I'm pretty comfortable that, and the law, the answer to your question originally, the 10 o'clock, we actually have some guidelines that we laid out there to ensure everybody's counting these and making it a priority.
So 10 p.m. on election night is the deadline for when those absentee ballots have to be counted. And then that's when we'll get that first wave of numbers. We have some questions from viewers at home. So thank you at home who are watching for sending us those questions. The first question that we've received a text of is, I'm wondering if a separate voter ID is required if voting in person. Secretary Pate, would you like to take that one as well?
No, I'm not sure what they really mean, but no, there's no separate, no different IDs. It's the one you have been issued, whether it's your Iowa driver's license or the ID that the county auditor will supply you with over 90% of Iowans having an Iowa driver's license. That's the most common ID number you're going to be using. And if you don't have one of those driver's licenses, you should reach out to your auditor right away so you can get that done. It makes your voting experience much faster and smoother.
Now, for anyone at home, maybe you have a driver's license, but you just have questions about this voter ID. When were those issued? How were those issued? What was the process for that? Who issued them?
Well, as you register to vote, we cross-check that against the Iowa driver's license database. So if you don't have an Iowa driver's license, the county auditors will send out a little card and they'll have that information. For those people who maybe have a driver's license, but they still want a voter ID card, they certainly reach out to the auditors and get that as well. But we've been doing that now for 2 years almost, and we've had already one election under our belt with voter ID and felt pretty good about the process. So now we're trying to go forward with that too.
Wonderful, thank you. Another question.
Other IDs as well. You can use a passport.
Right.
There are other IDs out there you can use. if you go to voterready.iowa.gov, it will give you a list of things you can use, both for showing identification and also proving residency if you're not pre-registered.
I was going to ask that residency question. Amanda, maybe you can touch on this for us. I've personally received a lot of questions from viewers at home asking, about what the rules are surrounding bringing some sort of proof of residency. Do you have to bring a proof of residency if you're already registered to vote? No, right?
Not if you're already registered.
If you're already registered, but you moved, do you have to bring a proof of residency?
Yes, you do. So we've actually had this happen recently in our county. We have people move and cross county lines quite frequently. So you have to be registered in to vote in the county that you reside. And so if you're doing that at this point, the registration deadline was the 24th. So if you're doing that at this point, then you do have to prove residency and bring in proper documentation to do that.
Another question from, Secretary Pate, did you want to?
I was going to mention, if in doubt, I recommend you go to our website, voterready.iowa.gov. It's got a lot of the prompts and answers to some of those technical questions, just so you're comfortable with what you're doing, because you can update voter registration online if you have a driver's license, and you can register to vote online. We want to make sure, so when you come to the county polling site or early voting at the county auditor's office, you don't have a lot of this stuff you have to do. And then you don't have a line, and you don't have a wait. So the more that we can do before you go in, it's called having a plan to vote. And that's some of the steps you might want to do ahead of time. Your polling locations are listed on there. And I think most auditors try to list it on their site. Some auditors mail out postcards even. So, we try to make sure your voting experience is as smooth as possible.
I'm a Polk County resident, and I was registered already, and I timed it. I had my twins with me and my husband, and it took me 11 minutes from the minute that I parked my car to the minute that I walked out of the county election office. So I can tell you right now, it's really easy to do if you are prepared. Another question from a viewer. We were told that if a poll worker puts a mark of any kind on a ballot, it is disqualified. Is that true? Jamie, would you like to take that? Or
well, poll workers are required to sign their initials on the ballot to make sure that there's no marks ahead of time. They're going through and making sure that you're getting a clean ballot. So I don't know if that's what they're talking about, but they are required by law to look at that ballot, make sure there's no marks on it, that it's a good ballot, and then give it to the voter.
can we talk deadlines real quick? We've already passed the deadline to request an absentee ballot. We've seen the USPS, or United States Postal Service, saying, put your ballot in the mail by yesterday. But now that day's passed. So what should people do? What do people need to keep in mind leading up to November 3rd if they want to vote early?
Big deadline is November 2nd to get your absentee ballot in the system. We have IMB codes, a fancy term for a barcode. We were the first state to do that. And basically, if you could get it to the post system, they'll register that it's there. We don't do the old postmarks anymore. So, but why cut it that close, folks? If you've had a chance to look at who you're going to vote for, let's get it done now. Then you can check it on our website to see if the county auditor's got it. I'd sleep a little better if I was doing it that way, just so you know it's all done. That's the big deadline right now.
Okay, November 2nd is the big deadline. Now, if you requested an absentee ballot, but then you said, hey, I think I'm over this. I want to vote in person. I want to watch my ballot go into the polling machine or the counting machine. What do I do? What steps do I need to take in order to surrender my ballot?
Bring your ballot with you, the one you received in the mail, so you can turn it over to the poll workers. Then they will issue you a new ballot so you can vote in person there. If you don't do that, if you show up and say, I want to vote, but I don't have my ballot, then the poll workers are going to have you vote provisionally. So don't take that personal. They're just going to put it in a special envelope and hold it to make sure you don't get 2 votes put in the system. This is Iowa, 1 vote. That's all you get. So that's the basic process to the whole thing.
How are ballots counted in Iowa? This is another question from a viewer. Is it manual or through a machine?
Every county uses a machine. we got rid of hand counting ballots a number of years ago. There was a few counties that enjoyed still doing that. We'll have 6 machines counting our early votes. And when you go to your polling site, there'll be a machine counting it. And what these machines do is they read it both front and back. They're tested by your county auditors, both on the way there. Then we do a post-election audit as well. So your votes are safe. We don't know how anybody's voting. So that's the one thing that we get a lot of questions on. How do you know I'm not looking at your ballot? Well, right now we've got 124,000 in Polk County. We're not ferreting out anybody's ballot to look at it.
Amanda, can you talk to us about the process in your county? How many machines do you have counting ballots, those early ballots? How many precincts do you have, or polling locations do you have?
Sure. So we have 6 polling locations in our county. We did just combine one, and 1 machine per precinct. And then for early voting, for all the absentees, I do have 1 machine tabulating those results, and it works very well. At the end of the election night, we do have a totals tape that prints, and that is cross-checked against our poll book, against the machine that tabulates the votes, and then we are also cross-checking that once they arrive back in our office on election night. So there's lots of checks and balances in place to ensure all of the ballots match what was sent and what's returned and number of voters.
Amanda and Jamie, have either of you had to add more machines because you're seeing higher voter turnout?
I have not here. I would assume Jamie has though.
We added 2 high-speed counters for the primary that we had. We had 4 for the primary. We're running 2 additional ones at 6 to be able to count the number we're going to get. We only have 46 hours to count these ballots when you start on Monday at 12:01. So we want to make sure that if anything happens to one of these machines, that we're able to get this counted by the 10 o'clock deadline.
I just mentioned, we have over 1,600 precincts in the state. And last count I think I saw, we have about 1,200 that will have voting sites. So some of them have been combined. And that's why I mentioned going to the voterready.iowa website, just to make sure you know where your polling site is, because I don't want you driving around frustrated about, I thought I always voted here at this one church. Well, sometimes those get changed, and we just want to make that as smooth as possible.
I can, as you know, I can speak to what is happening in my world, and absolutely, I just got something from my Polk County auditor in the mail that said that my location has changed this year. So it's happening to everybody all across the state. My in-laws in Cedar Rapids, their polling location also changed. Will a snowstorm, another question for a viewer, or bad weather cancel the election? Of course, we're not supposed to have bad weather. It's supposed to be 60 degrees, but could it or would it cancel the election?
No, the election goes on. So that's probably why a lot of the candidates want you to vote early. That way they have that insurance policy already in place. But no, it's rain or shine, snow or not, we'll be having the election.
What about voter remorse? If somebody maybe voted early and decided that they didn't love the person they don't love the person they voted for anymore, what happens?
Well, tough it out. I don't want to say it too rudely, but that's why you need to think about it. I mean, I understand why we have a 29-day window to let people vote early, but a lot of campaigning is going on. A lot of issues may change your opinion of what's going on. So you got to balance that into what you're doing when you're making those decisions. For myself, I voted absentee last week. But I did it because I was still doing my homework. I mean, I don't know about you all, but when you turn the ballot over on the backside, there's some issues or races there that you don't just have the top of your head. You have to do a little research. And I'm going to put a plug in for Local 5 here. A little more online stuff would help us, on some of those other items when we get down to voting, because we don't want to see the fall off that we see. Sometimes people just vote the front side of the ballot and they don't even try to vote the back. We need them all as voters. So I get the remorse side, but folks, think about it long and hard before you cast that ballot, because things can change.
I am really glad you said that, because we have our vote team has been compiling these lovely graphic videos that are all available on our website under our voter guide that talk about everything from the presidential race all the way down to the land, water.
There you go.
Conservation. Thank you very much. Land, soil, and water. Anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you for the assist there, Jamie. Okay. The next topic I would like to talk about is rejected ballots. What would be a reason that a ballot's rejected? I know we keep saying, get those absentee ballots in early because that way, if there is something wrong with your ballot, you can call people and have them come fix it. But what are some of the reasons you might have to call people? And at what point is a rejected ballot? Is it just too late?
Well, it's never really too late. I mean, the biggest reason right now, and the only reason, is people aren't signing their affidavit envelope. That's the one thing you have to do. In Polk County, it's in highlighter, it's bolded, it has an asterisk on top asking you to do it. But some people just are in such a hurry to get that ballot back in, they don't. So your local county auditor will call you if you have a phone number, which not many people do. Even less people have good emails. So we're mailing voters options on what their options are. They can come down to our office, your local county auditor's office, sign it. Prior to the deadline, they could have requested a second ballot. But they can either sign it or they can go to their polling site and vote there.
And I'll put a plug in. Iowa has one of the lowest rejections in the country. They just had recent stats were coming out. And I think that's attributed to the fact, I think our voters do pay attention and know what they're supposed to be doing. And the auditor's offices are very, very aggressive. I mean, the work they put in, I've seen times when they come in on weekends and they were sorting through some of them, trying to get a hold of them on the phone because they know the clock was ticking down on those voters. So make sure their ballots would be successful. So it's a balance there. And I'm pretty comfortable we're going to see the same kind of success this year.
It's important to remember the people working in these county auditors' office counting these ballots. I mean, this is the passion. This is their job. They're not just doing it because they have to be there. They're doing it because this is what they want to do too. So thank you, both of you, Amanda and Jamie and Secretary Pate. Thank you for, being elected officials who are there to ensure that our votes are counted. I have a question for you in terms of voter security and election security. We've heard a lot of rumbles about, well, not rumbles, I mean, a lot of conversation, Iran and Russia hacking the US election system and getting voter information. Secretary Pate, can you talk a little bit about how Iowa specifically, how our votes are secure, how secure the voter registration information is, and if we have any concerns that perhaps someone could tinker with the vote counts?
Well, I can appreciate people's concerns, and that's why we try to stay out in front on letting the public know all the precautions we're taking and the investments we're putting in. And you'll hear me talk about it's a team effort. Well, this is a team effort as well, because when you're looking at the cybersecurity component, for an example, my office working with 99 county auditors, working with county IT people, working with our own state IT people, working with Homeland Security, the FBI, and some of the private vendors we bring in. We're only as strong as our weakest point. So we have to work collectively to get that done. So we have a lot of measures we put in place in partnering with the counties, making sure they have some of the anti-malware and the screening they need, the firewalls, the monitoring that we do on the systems. All that combined is what gets us to the finish line. And the fact that these bad actors, they don't take a break. So it won't just be about this election coming up this week. They're constantly trying to steal identity for profit. They're not just trying to always skew an election. They're out to make a buck. But we do have the foreign bad actors, and they're trying to create doubt in your mind as to the integrity. And that's our biggest battle right now going into this election cycle. We have paper ballots here. We have post-election audits. We have bipartisan teams working at the polls. We have a series of procedures out there and the transparency to the public so you can see it. And nobody's going to hack a thing, or no one's going to be able to change a single vote sitting in Moscow, Russia, or China, or anywhere else, because we've got real people here keeping an eye on that side of it. But the perception, the mistrust, or the misinformation, I should say, and disinformation, that's the battlefront. And the social media is really causing us a lot of heartburn. They put things out there that we have to kind of help walk back, and it's not going to go away overnight, and we'll have to keep fighting it.
Amanda, can you talk a little bit about that being a smaller county? What is the what's the software looking like and the hardware looking like for get keep counting all those votes and then getting that information to the Secretary of State's website?
So I feel like we take cybersecurity just as serious as a big county. We use all the services that OCIO has offered us. We work very closely with the Secretary of State's office. I have a great IT company that we outsource with, and they work closely too with both of those entities. So I have complete trust, I guess, in our system. And the biggest misconception that I get in our county, and that I'm constantly ensuring people, is that Iowa, we do not have any election equipment that's connected to the internet. So it's a paper ballot. It is old school, but it works, and it provides that comfort for the voter when they hear that. So I really appreciate the way Iowa does the election and handles cybersecurity at the level they do.
So how does the vote get from Ringgold County or Polk County to then the Secretary of State?
We use an election night reporting system with the Secretary of State's office, and we upload the results securely through that site. And then I'm also sending them my reports, so then they can double check, just like we have on our side. So then they can double check that the results I uploaded do match what we canvass and what we're certifying to them.
So how many, can you quantify how many steps are being taken here to ensure that everything's being done safely? I mean, it's loads, right?
A lot, yeah.
Jamie, do you feel like you have to do anything different because you're a larger county, the largest county in the state?
I don't. I feel like all 99 counties have the same responsibilities, because if you get into one county, you can get into all counties. So we work with our IT department. We have a vendor, and we work with the Secretary of State's office, some national groups. So we're very confident in the other counties, and I hope they're confident in us as well.
We just have about 3 minutes left. So I want to talk about the SCOC and what that is and why it exists. I understand Secretary Pate, I was just touring it today. It's at the National Guard, and they said, I was asking them some questions about election security, and and they said, ask Secretary Pate, we are not your people for that. So they are deferring to you. But can you just tell viewers at home what that is and how there are so many people kind of monitoring the situation from near remotely and actually in this room?
Well, it's the State Emergency Operations Center. All these acronyms, we be careful. Those are staffed, and these experts I talked to you before about the A-team of sorts. The FBI, Homeland Security, the National Guard cyber teams, the Iowa Homeland Security folks. There's a full list. I'm going to leave somebody out now, but and we're there, and we're monitoring what's going on across the country as well. Because if there are trends in one state, we need to know it ahead of time. We're monitoring what's going on in Iowa, and all that's in one place, and then we disseminate that out to auditors as needed, so they can anticipate or respond to things before maybe it happens to them. In most cases, that's how our plan is. And we get together, and we're sitting there before the polls open, and we're not leaving until the polls are closed. And it's been very quiet so far, and we did it in 2016. We felt pretty tame in 2018, and now going into this election. But we want to make sure we have everybody on their toes, if you will, and ready to respond to whatever's going on. They're monitoring everything you can think of: social media, they're monitoring the internet, they're monitoring police, public safety reports, everything you can think of.
A final question from a viewer, and we only have about 50 seconds left, but the question from the viewer, is there a plan to count all ballots by November 9th? And Secretary Pate, you kind of touched on this already. Maybe either Amanda or Jamie, would you like to take that? Do you plan to have all ballots across the state? So maybe this is for you, Secretary Pate, counted by November 9th?
We will have the unofficial done. The key thing here is we have to give the county sufficient time to do all the things we've talked about. You've got to allow people to have those last mail-in ballots, as long as they're postmarked legally, to get counted. They have to do their canvass and their post-election audit. And so November 9th is just one threshold. Until we do the certifications, It's not official, folks, until we've got all that done. So you'll know. I mean, I don't want to confuse the voters out there. You'll get a sense of who the winners are of these races. If you have a few close ones, be patient. Our goal is accuracy, not speed, but we want to make sure you feel comfortable in the legitimacy of the numbers we're giving you.
I hate to ask this question, but do you have any idea when you think those votes might be certified by?
Well, they have hard dates. By the 30th, we'll have everything done in and then we have the electoral college. There's dates for that as well. That's why the public doesn't always pay attention to all the behind the curtain stuff. It's not really official until they do the electoral college for the presidency. So that's a whole nother show.
Which unfortunately we're out of time for. So thank you very much on that note. Amanda Waske, Jamie Fitzgerald, Secretary of State Paul Pate. Thank you Secretary of State Paul Pate. Thank you so much, all three of you, for being here. I really appreciate you being with us. I know how busy you are, like I said at the beginning. So again, thank you for dedicating a half hour to our viewers at home. Be well, everyone.